I was watching a video that Seiji Hito did on his channel. At least I started to, but I paused it because I had to go and Google this to see if this was actually true, in which I was about to listen to. And it turns out that it is. So in case y'all are unaware, but of course by the time this video goes up, y'all probably will be aware. There was this bill that was just introduced by the Democrats, or a person who is a Democrat. And the name of the bill is called the Civil Duty to Vote Act, which basically is going to make all people who are eligible to vote, make it a requirement for them to vote in any upcoming general elections. And if they fail to do so, unless outside of the confines that would allow them not being able to do so, they would have to pay a $20 penalty or fine. And I think it's another consequence behind that if the $20 didn't suffice. But I'm gonna go ahead now and get into it. Yes, y'all, what I'm about to read to you is very real. This is not made up. This is not doctored at all. It has come to this point. A bill introduced this week in the House of Representatives will require eligible U.S. citizens to vote in general elections or potentially face a financial penalty. The Civic Duty to Vote Act, written by Representative John Larson, a Democrat out of Connecticut, was introduced on Monday. It would require an eligible citizen to appear to vote in each regularly scheduled general election for a federal office or for other purposes. To be eligible, a person has to be registered to vote in the state they reside in for an upcoming election. If a person fails to do so, there will be a $20 civil penalty, but the bill's text allows valid and sufficient reasons for not appearing, which include those not registered to vote after a good faith attempt to do so. So even if people aren't registered to vote, they're not going to accept that you just didn't register to vote, because they'll still fine you. Basically saying if you were eligible to register but you chose not to, we're still going to fine you. Only for those that tried to do so, but for some reason or whatever, there was an error and they wouldn't allow you to register, or whatever the case may be. Other reasons that would save them from the penalty include the inability to appear to vote due to an emergency, someone with sincerely held religious or personal beliefs, as well as if they are simply unaware of their eligibility to vote. The bill states that a waiver would be available for citizens who cannot afford to pay the $20 penalty and instead commits them to perform an hour of community service. That's the alternative. Well, like I said, well, here's my $20 right now. Here. $20, I don't think many of us are going to miss that. But see, the thing is, where's that money actually going? That's what I'd like to know. Because we know we ain't giving it to a charity. I know that for a fact. If someone doesn't pay the $20 fine, the bill's text as they would not be subject to any additional civil or criminal penalties or any denial of government benefits. Law enforcement agencies would also not be allowed to use any information provided by the person related to this act, such as their reason for not appearing to vote, in any further criminal investigations, according to the bill. Larson, who has served as a representative for Connecticut's 1st District since 1999, previously served on the Task Force on Election Reform, which was created to develop reforms to take big money out of politics and address flaws in the electoral system, according to his website. Larson shared on Facebook this week about his work on the bill, saying it would increase voter turnout and engagement. They must think that almost every person in America is hurting for $20 if they think that this is going to work. Like, literally, this is almost like I can't think, like a shakedown. Like, you're literally trying to snatch money out of people's pockets just because they don't want to vote. Like, literally, you're forcing people to do something that they probably don't want to do. Democracy only works if the people exercise the civic duty to vote. This is an act of desperation, too. There's a side that's probably losing, or in the event of probably going to lose, and this is the steps that they're taking in order to try to ensure a win. And guess what? If that side happens to lose, even if they do all of this, then they're going to look stupid. But the thing is, where is that $20 going? Most likely to their bank account. The post garnered a mix of responses, including one commenter who replied, "If people want to vote, they can vote. If they don't want to vote, we live in a country where they are free to do that." The bill's introduction comes amid a wave of election initiatives. Many Republican-led states have tightened access to the ballot in the name of election security by passing new voting laws, many of which were inspired by former President Donald Trump's false claims of a stolen 2020 election. Meanwhile, Democrats and voting rights advocates have said such laws make it more difficult for Black Americans and others to vote by consolidating polling locations, requiring certain types of identification, and ordering other changes. You know what's so funny? They love to lead with Black Americans when it comes to voting, but Black Americans don't get a damn thing out of voting for them. Isn't that interesting how all of that just kind of plays itself out? The minute we mention reparations and tangibles, they act like they don't know who the hell we are. Like I said, here's my 20. Until we get what is owed to us, here's my 20. I won't miss it. Democratic lawmakers have written their own voting rights legislation, which would make Election Day a national holiday, ensure access to early voting and mail-in ballots, and enable the Justice Department to intervene in states with a history of voter interference, among other changes. The legislation has stalled in Congress, and I bet you it has. No one's going to be in heavy support of this. This is a pipe dream. And it doesn't surprise me what side is all for it. It doesn't surprise me in the least bit that it's a person who happens to be a Democrat that's for it. Like I said, this is not me choosing sides, because neither side speaks to me at all. Like I told you before, whatever side is the one cutting the check is whatever side we will be on. And right now, neither one of them is trying to do it. So I'm on neither side. And that's how I feel about that. That's where I stand on it. But this bill to try to force people to do something, or they have to pay a penalty or a fine or do an hour of community service just to get a vote, that's ridiculous. I don't know. This person who came up with this bill, this is stupid. John Larson, you are an idiot if you think that this is actually going to work. Man, it's some weirdos out here. It's some weirdos out here who are in the political spectrum. I don't want to go too deep into it and end up saying the wrong thing, but this I don't think is going to work at all. And that's just my take on it.